what would you say have been your biggest changes, or the biggest maybe direction changes or highlights through the 50 years?
Well, back in the 80s, there was a move of God amongst our stream, the evangelical, Baptist, Methodist, Assembly of God, whatever, that kind of stream. There was a move of God, primarily probably influenced by John Wimber out of California. He was at Fuller Seminary, and he was teaching some stuff on power evangelism, and we ran into him and had him be a guest speaker at some of our stuff, and then we all started working together. I don't know if that was a catalyst, but it was a companion if it wasn't. But there was a period of time there where, for instance, the meetings that we would do would often be extended. You know, we started a meeting down in South Alabama, and it was supposed to go 3 days. It went 6 weeks. And people were coming in from all over because there was this unusual sense of the presence of God, and people's lives were being changed. People coming off drugs without going through rehab, you know, deliverance, demonic stuff, healings, all that kind of stuff. Well, we didn't know how to deal with all that. We were Baptists, and our Baptist friends were like, y'all going charismatic, or you going Pentecostal? And it's like, well,
we don't know.
We don't. That's right. It's like my theology hadn't changed, but my experience has changed.
Yeah.
So, you know, a lot of stuff I preached about now is happening. It's like right there in front of me.
Yeah.
So, you know, that sent us in a little bit different direction for a while, because the big Baptist churches that before had invited me to come speak were not inviting me. Like we were a little bit of a unknown commodity. So we take that direction, and
let me just say, like, I remember that. Like, I remember those meetings. I remember that change. I remember, you know, I was little. I was in school. I was like maybe 6 or 7. Was that 81, 82? You know, so I was 6 or 7 years old. I remember going to that meeting that lasted 6 months. Like, we left school and we came and we, you know, went to the last several weeks or whatever. And it definitely changed. I don't want to say personalities, but there was a life that all of a sudden we weren't sitting in meetings just hearing, like you said, you weren't just preaching it. We were watching it happen. And from a little girl, it was like, wow, you know, this is cool stuff. Like, this is, you know, but I would say that was from my limited perspective, that was a big change. You know, it changed everything. And we eventually did stop going to the Baptist church. You know, so there was a veering off there.
And the Baptists were happy when we did. At least that much was happy. And we started a church called Restoration Church, and that went for years. And I was not the pastor of it, but I was one of the elders and one of the starters, and several other churches that grew out of that. And during that whole time, I was a part of a group called Fullness. And Fullness was a kind of a movement based on a magazine that went out, and all of us were writing in the magazine. And it was kind of a bridge between the evangelical, strictly evangelical, and the new stuff. I won't call it charismatic. There was a charismatic element in it, because we were believing that God still did the miraculous, and that he gave gifts to people, and that everybody could participate. You could pray for the sick, or you could teach, or, you know, as good as anybody. So there was that element in it, and there needed to be a bridge, a safe bridge for Baptist, Methodist, whatever, to come across to experience what God is doing today without giving up the essentials of what they believe. Now they gave up a lot of the traditions. And so it was a mini awakening. It was a revival time. And so that kind of redirected us. So we like I said, we started some churches. Well, these churches, people that were being converted and pastors whose lives were being radically changed were saying we need help. So we started a school.
Mm-hmm.
And TD, my brother, we made him the president of it. But Emmaus Road Ministry School began to take these people whose lives had been changed, particularly ministers, and try to equip them in how do you operate in a church that's not strictly evangelical or Baptist or denomination. And out of that school grew a whole lot more churches. So that caused us the need to develop a network of churches where we can take care of them, at least be a consultant to them. So all that began to happen. That became a part of Kerygma as well.
Yeah. So I lived through all of that, but as I'm listening to you just kind of talk about the progression, I've got this picture of just, you starting with this little, I'm going to go into churches and help disciple and bring those people, and just the growth of it of like, okay, now we're going to oversee churches, and now we've got a school it's just kind of a steady growth, which really illustrates that just faithful with little. And then it becomes much like, okay, there's more need. So you're just kind of gathering more and more under kind of the umbrella.
Hi, I'm Dudley Hall with Kerygma Ventures. I would love to send you a weekly word from me. It lands in your box on Friday morning. What I try to do is cover what's happening in the world, regular events, but cover it from a biblical standpoint, a biblical worldview. And I would love to send it to you. So if you're interested, please sign up.
Okay, I would be really amiss if I didn't major part of SCLM and the ministry. This may have been going longer than 50 years, so you'll have to tell me, but tape of the month.
Tape of the month.
Tape of the month. How did it get started? Why? Was it before? Did you start the tapes before the ministry was official, or was it part of, okay, this is part of the official SCLM?
Well, the tape of the month started in 1977.
Okay, so it's a little after. Okay.
Yeah, a little after.
Okay.
So here's how that started. Since I'm traveling, I don't have that constant congregation in front of me to see if the message is working.
Okay.
When you're a pastor and you're preaching to the same people every Sunday, you can tell, are they getting it? Is it making a difference? Is it changing anybody's life? Whatever. So I didn't have anybody do that. I mean, you can be real lazy as a traveling preacher. You just get your 5 sermons.
Rotate them.
And that wasn't, I couldn't do that.
Yeah.
So I gathered around about 12 couples that were friends of ours, and I said, if I sent you what I'm preaching out there, if I sent it to you once a month, kind of summarize what I'm saying, would you listen to it and give me feedback? Just tell me, is this pertinent? Is it relevant? Is it making any sense? Is it where we live? And they said, yeah, we will. So it started with 12 couples.
Not all in Texas.
No.
They were all spread out.
Yeah, wherever I've been. They were all spread out. So I started sending it to them, and they were faithful. They would give me feedback, and most of it was very positive. And they started handing the tapes out to their friends. And then I'd get calls from their friends.
Add me to the list.
Can I be on the tape of the month? And then, and then when I realized it was helpful to people. When I would go to a meeting, I'd say, any of you guys want to get a tape when I leave? Give me your name and I'll send you a tape. Well, I was traveling a lot, so we had, 3,500, 4,000 people that were getting cassette tape back in those.
That you made in your office.
Yes.
I mean, you didn't make it, but
yes.
you had people making them in your office. Yeah, I remember.
Remember that?
Oh, yeah. Mom would take us up there after school, and we would flip the little tapes over and push the button out of these big machines, where they were duplicating. You had one master. And I mean, it was a family business.
Yeah. Well, one of our financial projects was, let's raise enough money to buy us one more of those machines.
Yeah.
Takes a lot to multiply those. And then I started doing a conference back in Alabama because I had so many friends back there. And it's where we had started in the Southeast. So we rented a place from the Baptist, Chaco Springs in Talladega, Alabama.
Yeah.
And then just in It primarily was to all the tape of the monthers. It's like I started getting from people going, I've been getting your tapes now for a year. Who are you?
I'd like to meet you.
I'd like to meet you.
Yeah.
Is there any way we could all get together? So we started this retreat that finally we called it the family reunion or something like that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Anyway, then we just called it the tape of the month retreat. I mean, we're very creative in our
successful Christian living,
right.
Tape of the month. Yeah.
Yeah. So that went on for years and years and years.
Yeah.
So that was another outgrowth of the whole thing. And then we went from tapes to CDs, and we still send out a monthly message. I've been doing it since 1977. I don't think we missed a time.
Yeah.
And we still send it out, but now it goes out through podcasts. And
yeah, it's true. I think there are still a few CDs hanging on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, if you were part of the tape of the month, you got little sky blue tapes that identified who we were.
Yeah.
That was more of our marketing brand than anything
Little
else.
blue, powder blue.
Powder blue tapes. Like, oh, that's one of Dudley's tapes.
Yep. Oh, it's true. Okay, back to some other major changes. When did you, let's talk about the ranch and how the ranch fits into the 50 years and the vision of the ministry.
Well, because my life had been changed at a retreat, I started examining that, because not only that retreat, but one when I was 13 I went to, and I was just totally blown away. I didn't know you could have that much fun talking about the Bible and Jesus,
Yeah.
So I saw the value of retreats, and I began trying to dissect, what is it? What is it about a retreat? So I came up with the whole deal of, in a retreat, you're in a different place with a different pace, and you usually will get a different perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And I found that you can do more discipleship, more change in people's lives in 2 or 3 days of concentrated being together, stand on a subject.
Undistracted.
Yeah. So I did all kinds of all kinds of retreats. When I started off as a minister, I had youth retreats.
I've been going to youth camp since I was like 5 years old.
we leased them from everybody.
Yeah.
Baptist, Church of God, Methodist. I have to say, Methodists back then had the best ones.
The best campuses?
Well, we're more, best campuses. Since then, everybody's gotten into it. But anyway, we did couples retreats, men's retreats, marriage retreats. So I've always believed in the retreat concept. And I always kind of, in the back of my mind, it's like, if I ever have one, I'm going to build it like this. I'm not going to have those kind of beds, and I'm not going to have that kind of food. And,
we're going to have comfortable chairs,
and, it's going to be designed to fit what you're doing.
Yeah.
Because I've had to use retreats that were made for one thing and try to bend them to make them fit your curriculum and so forth. So I just kind of had to, it was never like a written down prayer, oh Lord, can I have a retreat center? But it was like, if I ever have one, here's what I want to do. And so a good friend of mine that was part of the whole tape of the month, discipleship stuff, he and I grew up together. He was just asking me one day, what's the vision? What do you want to do? And he kind of caught the vision of the retreat thing. And so I was in a church in Atlanta. It was primarily African-American church. I mean, there were a few white people in, but most were Black people from all over. And there was a prophet from one of the African countries, I think Uganda, I'm not sure, but he was all dressed in the African garb. And I was there to be the speaker one night, but he got up to make a little testimony, and he turned around and said, the retreat that's in your heart, somebody's working on it right now, and it will be yours. And he gave me three or four other things that's not pertinent to here, but all of them came true. And I went away thinking, what? Okay. I don't know what to do with that.
Yeah.
And then my friend came to me and said, I'd like to own a ranch in Texas so I can hunt. Would you find me one? And he said, if you will, you can use it when it's not hunting season. You can use it for all your stuff. Well, it sounded like a good deal to me.
Yeah.
And so, and he said, I'll let you have say-so in how we develop the facility, where people stay. And it's like, finally, I get to have a creative facility that'll work. Anyway, long story short, but he miraculously moved from bankruptcy to having some money. And so I looked at a bunch of ranches and finally said, you need to come out and see if you like one of them. So he came out. He lived in Georgia. He came out and we went all over looking at these ranches I had picked out. That morning over coffee, we had said, look, we need the Lord's help here because neither one of us are real estate people. Mm-hmm. So if we walk on the land the Lord wants you to have, we just need the Lord to let us know somehow or another. So all the land we saw that day,
nothing.
Lord never said anything. So as we were coming in, the real estate agent said, are y'all familiar with land on the river, on the Brazos River? And I was, because I live in Texas, but he wasn't. So she said, I don't know any for sale, but I can get on a place and show y'all what it looks like. So we go to this place there's no road to it. You just go across the pasture down by the fence and over boulders and through stuff. It was her car. So I was like, okay, we'll go as long as you want to. We drive as far as we can. Then we have to walk several hundred yards. And we finally get to the property. And it's over the banks of the Brazos. And it's the most beautiful view I've ever seen in Texas. Mm-hmm. And I looked at Richard Culpepper was his name. I looked at him and I went, is this it? And he went, this is it. And the real estate lady said, I don't guess you heard me. It's not for sale. And I said, oh, okay, we heard you. Who owns it? So she told me, and I said, he goes to my Bible study. He was a member of the Bible study I did every Friday morning in Dallas. So I called him from there, and I said, I'm standing out on your place, and it's beautiful. He said, I know, that's why we own it. And I said, you want to sell it? And he went, no, we bought that for our kids, and I don't think so, but I know him. He's a businessman, So I turned to Richard and I said, how much money will you pay for it? He gave me a figure per acre. So JD keeps talking, and finally he said, if we did sell it, I'd have to get this for it, which was that figure.
Same number.
Yeah. Mm. So I said, well, would you want to sign a contract today? He went, oh, yeah. But anyway, he finally got that. And in the midst of the negotiations and trying to get all that legally done, Richard said, I don't really need to own property there and pay all that tax. Why don't I give it to Kerygma Ventures and you can let me come hunt sometime? So he actually gave the land. Yeah. And that started the ranch. And then other people gave and we built a lodge and a bunkhouse. And other people gave and we built a big kitchen and a teaching room and an apartment. Other people gave, we built a Betsy's place. So its existence is a testimony of God's faithfulness. No money was ever borrowed. It all came in. And we continually do stuff out there today. That's one of our primary things, bring people there. And we do 15 or 20 events a year there.
Yeah.